What is the absolute worst game you ever played? Maybe you thought of a game that was disappointing, or maybe you thought of a game that is filled with bugs and glitches. Although a few games I personally don't really like came to mind, I decided to find the definitive answer. I found a list of the top 100 lowest rated games on Steam, and I'm gonna play them all to find out which game I personally think is the worst. Now let's spin the wheel and get ready to go dumpster diving. World War II Online? Sure, let's get right into it. This is probably the best loading screen I've seen in the series so far. I think the photos from the actual gameplay all around the border is a really nice touch. Too bad the game immediately ruins all that goodwill by forcing me to make an account. If any of you want to get into the field of user design, this is a perfect example of what not to do. When making an account, the game prompts you for a call sign and for an email address. I put my usual call sign, and since I had some bad experiences with Steam games misusing my personal data, looking at you on December, I put in a fake email address. Apparently the game didn't like my call sign, giving me a list of restrictions that would have been nice to see 30 seconds ago. Whatever. I fixed my call sign only to get told that it was already taken. Again, this would have been nice for them to tell me while I was typing it, but fine. From now on, I'm the cooler Jito. Take that, random guy playing World War II online. But alas, victory was short-lived. They told me that my email address had to be validated before I could play. You win this time, game. Now we're at the character select screen. This is a little rough. Apparently everyone wants to play as Germany, so my choices are between the Allies. And to be honest, these models all look terrible. The British Navy just looks awful. The US Navy just decided they weren't coming to the war today, and some programmer must have pushed to production a little too soon, since I don't know what a Day Zero campaign undefined is. Enough of that though. It's time. I enlisted in the French Navy and get berated for not graduating from basic training. Fine, I'll do your tutorial. How long could it... Oh no. Between the fact that moving around and chatting are their own separate tutorials, and that I apparently completed 2 tutorials twice without ever playing the game, I was worried that the tutorials were going to be rather pointless, but I went ahead and loaded up the movement tutorial anyway, and I could immediately see why movement was its own tutorial. For one, when looking to the left and right, it feels like there's a soft cap as to how fast you can turn, but when you look straight up, your camera quickly jerks upwards. It's kind of disorienting, honestly. The movement itself is a bit more realistic, since it takes a bit to get up to full speed and to slow down to a stop. What's weird is how momentum is transferred when you're strafing. If you hold forwards when you strafe, you can actually go a lot faster than normal, and if you hold backwards, then you go a lot slower. After a couple more minutes in the tutorial, I decided to just try out a real match. I load into Sombreville, and my goal as a member of the British Army is to defend the town. I'm on it. I quickly look at my loadout, a gun, some grenades, a knife, and a building tool, and I set out to investigate my environment. Honestly, the game does look a bit nicer than I thought it would. If I never saw the player models, I would actually find the graphics pretty decent. I spent around 5 minutes walking around the town before I'm killed by someone. Since the game is meant to be realistic, I don't know who shot me or from where. I just gotta respawn and try again. This time I find myself bunkered down in a house. Aside from me throwing a grenade at a tank, nothing really much happens here either. I spend nearly half an hour wandering around the map trying to find an enemy before the game crashes. Not much happens once I load back into the game. I get a good look at the map, which is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I load into another character, have the game glitch and send me moving and spinning all over the place, find out that apparently the server had to restart, which I would have been okay with if they had given any notice, then got bored and started planting a garden. I found a guy who I thought was an enemy, apparently he wasn't, sat on a tank, and then I logged off for the night. Aside from getting killed by that one guy, I didn't find a single enemy in over an hour of searching, so I waited for the next day to see if more people would be on. Day 2 arrived, and I decided I was tired of being a grunt in the army. It was time for me to earn my wings. So I boarded a plane and took off, soaring through the sky like a majestic bird. And by that, I mean I glitched my plane since I had no idea how to fly and I had to respawn. Alright then, maybe the air isn't for me. Maybe it's time I earn my sea legs instead. I spawn into a boat and notice these weird mannequins all around the ship. I'm assuming that's the thing I was shooting at yesterday, although I don't know for sure. I look at the controls for once and I actually get the boat to move. I swap between steering the boat and shooting the guns, but with no enemies nearby, I get bored pretty quickly. But I'm confident now. I'm ready to fly that plane. And so, after looking at the controls, I take off once more, ready to fly in the sky. Look at how beautiful it is. Enough of that. Back to being a foot soldier. Honestly, I had the same experience as I did the day before. I played with the sun glare for a bit before deciding to just run through the town. As I did, I was left with some time to think. Is this all my life is supposed to be? Just some pawn in the games of the elite, sent off with the promise of prestige and valor, only to just be another unnamed corpse on the battlefield? And what if I did succeed? Could I live with myself if I killed another person? A human being with hopes and dreams? A human being with a family? A human being who is currently shooting at me? Oh crap. Oh crap. Wait. Did I kill him? Did I actually get a kill? Suck it, morals. I ride that high for about 3 minutes before I'm gunned down the second I enter an opening. And that's pretty much it. In around 2 hours of gameplay, that's the most excitement I got. Before I end the video here, I need to mention something. To be honest, I don't really like the realistic military sim genre. Call me spoiled, but I prefer to play first-person shooter games that are a bit easier to pick up and play. I don't exactly find it fun to learn the tons of buttons and controls I need to accurately fly a plane, and I feel frustrated when I die right away to an enemy I can't see or hear. As such, I find it very hard to find positive things to say about the game. It's not like the game's without merit. The game and series holds 3 world records, 1 for largest playable area in a shooter, and 2 for being the first MMO war game and MMO FPS. It looks like they were making the game in Unreal Engine 5, and if the pictures they provide are anything to go by, then the game will soon look amazing. However, I'm personally on the fence about the pricing. The game is free, but it works on a subscription model, and as someone who hates products that have monthly subscriptions instead of a one-time purchase, I'm looking at you, Adobe. I spend $10 a month on Spotify since I listen to it for hours a day, and you're telling me that in order to enjoy everything this game has to offer, I have to spend $18 a month? Yes, I do understand that this is a way to support the developers like on Patreon, but I feel like $18 a month is a bit much, especially considering that for $180 a year you could buy 2 or 3 AAA games instead, or a lot more indie games. So, I contacted a close friend for some alternatives for anyone who likes this genre. The main games he recommended were Squad, since it's a great game with a large modding community, Postscriptum, Battlefield 1 and 4 if you prefer a slightly more casual feel, Hell Let Loose, but be wary that they changed developers recently, and Arma 3 if you're more into military simulators. If you're a fan of the more realistic military simulators with a heavy emphasis on teamwork and cooperation, I can imagine you'd like this game, but in my opinion, there's nothing much to enjoy here. Aside from my usual grievances with games like this, I don't think there's anything that sets this game apart from other similar ones, and for an $18 premium membership every month, that makes it a little too expensive. Still, this isn't a terrible game per se, it's just not for me. Anyway, I hope to see you all in the next episode of Dumpster Diving. Peace out.